So good morning. I think we're ready to start our final press conference. First of all, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to all of the ministers of the G7 who attended this ministerial meeting. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the 6 G7 countries, which obviously, in addition to Italy, took part in a very fruitful, insightful, and comprehensive debate. We greatly appreciated the insights that have come from this session. I would also like to thank the European Union representative, the representative of the African Union, representatives of UNESCO, UNICEF, OECD, and the Global Partnership for Education. We had a very intense and productive debate, which I think I can say was also very effective indeed. I would also like to stress the fact that we share the same approach, and this is something that we confirmed today when we adopted our final declaration. We share a common set of values as members of a community which is based on democracy and freedom, and which upholds democracy and freedom as, say, the foundation of what we do. And this is something that the US Secretary of Education stressed, and this is something that others, in fact, agreed with. He said that education is like the foundation of skyscrapers that reach the sky. And education, in the same way, represents the foundations of our path towards the future for all young people. And it is the basis for future progress. And I would like to stress the fact that we have all focused on the need to make sure that we really manage to acknowledge each person's potential. And just as a state should be at the service of its citizens, schools should be at the service of pupils and students so that nobody is left behind. And we all stressed the need for inclusiveness. Acknowledging everyone's talent means giving every individual an opportunity, giving every individual the possibility of looking towards a future in which nobody is left behind. We focused on the need to personalize education. This is a key theme that we all have said is key. And if we want our young people to have a rewarding future, we have to make sure that our education system recognizes individual talents and potential. In the final meeting we had before the formal adoption of our declaration, we underscored the need to ensure that students can benefit from vocational and technical education and training, ensuring continuity with the smooth transition from schools, colleges or academies to employment. Schools and businesses are not enemies. They need to work hand in hand with a collaborative approach in order to ensure that our young people can look towards the future with confidence. We have to also harness the extraordinary potential of artificial intelligence, which is clearly something that has to be governed and managed adequately. Our aim, as we stressed yesterday, is that of ensuring that artificial intelligence is obviously used to promote and further human intelligence. For true inclusiveness, we have to invest in STEM. We have to bridge the gender gaps, which, as we know, are still considerable in our countries. And in so doing, we have to make sure that equal opportunities are given to boys and girls, particularly with regard to core subjects that are key for the development and well-being of our communities. We also stressed the need to fight against high dropout rates or early school leaving. We mentioned the Italian experience and what is being done to address the phenomenon of dropouts. Others did the same. France, for instance, shared some interesting, let's say, initiatives that are actually quite similar to ours. We're all committed to delivering on this goal. The United Kingdom, this morning, in fact, once again reiterated the current government's goals, targets to tackle the issue of, say, attendance and dropout. And we have said that actually the COVID-19 pandemic has indeed, in many cases, kept children away from school, and we have to bring them back. And this is a common commitment. All participants acknowledged another important aspect, and I would like to thank the representative of the European Union for having highlighted this particular point, but she was not alone in underscoring the importance of mobility. And I very much hope that the Erasmus Plus programme can be expanded beyond the European Union, because pupils' mobilities, students' mobilities, teachers' mobilities is very important in order to familiarize with new cultures, new societies, and new education models. And there's another point I wish to stress, if I may. There is a very fine expression used by the representative of Germany. In the course of this morning's visit, he acknowledged the wonderful atmosphere that he was able to witness. There was great participation, great involvement, and a sense of a serene environment. And this is something that all our schools should strive to achieve, including these training academies, these TVET institutions, because, as we know, every person's talents must be, say, supported and furthered. I would also like to thank the Japanese minister for having yet again stressed the importance of having invited Ukraine to our meetings. And this is particularly important in the light of the multilateralism that we all, I'd say, believe to be very important. And this was the first time that we organized youth G7, inviting young people from all G7 countries, and we know that this afternoon they will be closing their meeting. And for the first time, we invited a representative of the African Union to our ministerial meeting, and we were really shocked to hear that in Africa there's a shortage of 17 million teachers. This is a real tragedy. And I have, for that reason, invited my colleagues to try and draw up a plan to promote education in Africa. The reason being that we must cooperate and work together. We have to work together to ensure growth and inclusion that we have been focusing on in order to further a multilateral approach, which is actually the common denominator of all of our meetings. And then, of course, we were able to listen to the Minister of Ukraine, and it was shocking to hear that most schools in Ukraine have been destroyed by the Russians. Our task is that of helping Ukraine to rebuild its schools, its libraries, its infrastructures, its assets, because culture is at the root of freedom. And then there was another significant theme, that of recognizing the value of teachers. And we have to, let's say, ensure that teachers are adequately rewarded in terms of adequate salaries, but also in terms of the social importance that teachers must be acknowledged as having. They are the true pillars of schools. It's the finest job in the world, because the future of our young people lies in their hands. And therefore, we must convince all of our societies of the fact that the role of education, the role of schools, and in particular of teachers, and all those who work in schools and for schools, is key. And we have to recognize this in very concrete terms, and the culture of respect, which was mentioned in our meeting yesterday, is something that we all share as being a core value, and it must inspire, let's say, all of the work carried out in our schools. There were a number of other points, of other issues that were addressed in the course of our debate. We could summarize, actually, the key points by looking at the outcome, i.e. the declaration, and also the preparatory work, which was very intense. I would like to conclude by saying that the Brazilian minister sent us a video message in order to participate directly, and through him we have chosen to build a bridge leading up to the next G20. So we've created a core group, an important, let's say, contribution towards ensuring that European partners in Europe and G20 partners at a global level may continue to pursue the values, targets, and objectives that are enshrined in this important G7 Education Ministers' Declaration of Trieste, so that all of these themes can be, let's say, at the core of the dialogue within the G20. And with that, I would also like to express my appreciation to the Japanese minister for having, let's say, already indicated the way. I would like to thank Canada for having indicated its intention to continue building on our achievements for the next G7 presidency. And I would like to point out that despite differences, despite the fact that we belong to different parties, despite the fact we have different backgrounds, this was stressed this morning, we were able to engage with each other with a very intense, fruitful dialogue, which has led us to conclusions and to a shared approach. Thank you once again for your contribution.
Passiamo alle domande.
Let's move on to questions. Francesco Di Filippo from the Italian news agency ANSA. Good morning, Minister. You stressed in your opening remarks the key role of education. You also added, however, that according to a number of international organizations, economic and social conditions can, if, let's say, not sufficiently sound, condition, let's say, achievement and opportunities in education. And did you address this in a very sort of like direct fashion, particularly when it comes to the problem of high dropout rates? Yes, I would like to add that we will publish the findings because we have really, I think, discussed so many topics of great interest that we feel that they should be they should be shared. We talked about the so-called Agenda Sud, Agenda Nord, the Italian agenda for the North and the South, the need to improve knowledge of the Italian language for people for whom this is not first language. In France, we also heard about the need to make sure that class sizes are, if possible, reduced. We also looked at core topics, teaching, let's say, reading, writing, and arithmetic, the core subjects that need to be, let's say, at the heart of our education policies and offering. A number of proposals were put forward in the course of our meeting, and I am confident that they will feed into inclusive policies that we believe to be essential. And say reducing dropout rates is a key target. The Parliamentary Under Secretary of State of the United Kingdom indicated some of the targets that the British government wishes to pursue in order to deliver inclusiveness, which is something that requires that children be brought back to school. This is something other countries also stressed. So attendance is key. And then there's another topic which I raised in the course of the meetings we had, in the course of bilateral meetings. We know that there are young people who simply stop going to school and spend their whole time at home. This is something that we've seen in Italy. This is something we've seen Elsewhere in Italy, for instance, there are 50,000 young people who have been spending all their time over the last 6 months at home. They've stopped going to school, they are not attending, and they spend the whole day on their devices. From the daily Il Piccolo, Ms. Landini. Sorry, the interpreters cannot hear the question. Thank you. Good morning, Minister. One of the most important themes of this summit has been that of ensuring that we recognise the value of teachers whose social value and authoritativeness must be recognised. Maybe salaries should be increased, and as a possible way of doing that, maybe that could be one of the priorities. Certainly, in addition to improving, let's say, teachers' employment conditions, we're also recruiting teachers. We have recruited last year over 40,000 teachers. 70,000 more will be recruited over the next 3 years, and then every year we will progressively addressing the issue of teachers who are with a temporary contract only. And as we know, this is a huge problem. This is, however, not enough. Recognizing the key role of teachers demands that their social value be recognized. And this is true of the general political, cultural, and social debate. We also discussed the issue of welfare for teachers. We also recognize the importance of promoting respect for teachers. We also address the phenomenon of violence, which targets teachers in many parts of the world. I learned that in some G7 countries, the situation is similar to the one we have in Italy. We have seen that there is growing aggressiveness towards teachers, and this is also true of parents and families. And therefore, there is the need to create an alliance between families and schools. This is key. And this is also important because in this way there can be more motivation and the possibility of making the right choices. The representatives of the United Kingdom and Germany in particular stressed the importance of ensuring that young people find the enthusiasm to fulfill their potential, to make the most of their talents with motivation, with guidance, the importance of which was stressed by all. But going back to the need to recognize the key role played by teachers, certainly we have to work on the, let's say, salaries that they receive. We have to make sure that their role is adequately recognized and that they are respected. We, for instance, have focused on, let's say, students' behavior and the fact that pupils' behavior is taken into account in report cards, for instance. France is taking a similar approach. And then, of course, we have to look at the dignity of teachers. I can just, for instance, make reference to our experience in Italy, but there has to be some form of legal support on the part of the government, because obviously it's unthinkable that when a teacher is attacked, they would need to pay for a lawyer. Then we have the issue of ensuring adequate safeguards for, let's say, protecting staff in the event of accidents at work. And we have to also involve staff in general. We know that the issue of welfare is important both in the public and private sector. And this is something that several of my colleagues raised. And this means bringing teachers back to centre stage. And we also discussed the issue of teacher training and continuous professional development. And many of my colleagues stressed the importance of lifelong learning, which can, say, provide greater, say, quality, and teachers must be aware of the fundamental strategic role they play, of the key position that they have to occupy. Last question, Anna Vitaliani, Rai News 24. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, delegates. This morning we were at the school you visited, the ITS Volta, which is specialized in training radiologists, lab technicians. And I think that it was a teacher who showed us some of the equipment and said, sadly, when these young people finish, they end up applying for positions that are also open to people who have not necessarily followed that form of technical and vocational training. And this is true of public competition requirements, etc. So obviously investing in these important, say, institutions is key. I mean, obviously, we know that this will be important in order to give them the students better employment opportunities. Employability is key. I would like to invite you to consider the figures that were shared this morning. 95% of the students who complete their diploma actually are able to find a job immediately. And as the principal indicated, the remaining 5% decides to opt for university degree. So there is a full employment condition, as we were saying. If anything, what really matters is ensuring that we take a comprehensive approach. We've introduced the so-called 4+2 reform in Italy precisely in order to have an adequate vision, an end-to-end policy, so as to ensure smooth transition from these, let's say, TVET institutions to employment. There aren't enough actually students who've enrolled, despite the fact that there is a huge demand on the part of businesses and industries for these people with technical training, with vocational education and training. And I was particularly interested in listening to what the Japanese minister and the American Secretary of Education said. Their aim is to reform their technical vocational education and training so that it can deliver, let's say, a smoother transition, guaranteeing more opportunities in terms of job seeking, and this is also something that Germany raised. We have to make sure that there's a good match between talent and opportunity. Otherwise, we'd be wasting this wonderful talent, and it would be a crime, frankly. It would be so unfair if we were not able to ensure that our young people can find fulfillment on the basis of their talents. And this is also something that our business system needs to pursue, because otherwise it is not going to find the necessary highly qualified, highly trained individuals who are in growing demand and who are also being better paid. And this is not something that we should underestimate. With that, I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank the members of the press for having followed our meeting. And I also wish to thank all of the staff members for their extraordinary contribution. I'd obviously like to acknowledge and thank ministers, heads of delegations, representatives of international organizations, and also all of the staff members of the countries involved, thanks to whom we can say that the meeting in Trieste has been very successful. I'd also like to thank the mayor of the city of Trieste, the president of the region, Mr. Federiga, for a truly outstanding contribution which has made it possible for our G7 to be so successful. The city of Trieste is at the crossroads of different peoples and countries, and it is known for its ability to promote dialogue, understanding, and therefore progress. Thank you very much.